Yeah, there's no way around this. This is just gonna be weird. Hello, friends. Welcome to my bedroom. Not like that. So we've talked a bit about how you go about making a costume in the abstract, but we can't really do abstracts. You've got an event to get to. We've got to do something concrete. And a lot of people getting into LARP for the first time assume that you must need custom made or at the very least specialist clothing to do this. No, you can just wear clothes. Depending on what your wardrobe is like and what kind of clothes you usually wear, you may already have some stuff that is okay to wear to LARP. And of course, as I'm sure we all know, the most sustainable piece of clothing is the one you already own. Now, I will freely admit that I am extra, and also I quite comfortably fit into women's sizing, sort of. Quite a lot of my clothing is suitable for wearing to a fantasy LARP. Also steampunk and cyberpunk LARPs, but we're gonna stick to fantasy, okay? Fantasy. The same might not be true if, for example, you are a plus-sized man and primarily wear jeans and t-shirts. But for everyone out there who can fit into commercially available women's sizing, even if you don't identify as a woman, I know, there are more options in the women's department. You're just gonna have to deal with the bust shaping if you want cheap fantasy clothing. And we'll talk more about that in a future video because there are ways of dealing with that. But I am getting hugely sidetracked. We are gonna go through my wardrobe. That's why we're in the bedroom. Sorry, that took a while. And I'm gonna show you some of the clothes that I have found, purchased, acquired over the years, which could form the basis for a good fantasy costume. Also, if you're wondering about the headscarf, when you cut your own hair, you have to accept that sometimes stuff's gonna go wrong. Yeah, no one's allowed to look at me. I probably should have picked one that was less like flesh colored. This is probably quite weird, but it's what we've got. We're going with it. First things first. Trousers. When it comes to trousers, you are primarily looking for something that is as neutral as possible. If you're comfortable wearing leggings, leggings are great. I don't currently have a pair of leggings to hand. These are Primark specials. They show up in the kind of athleisure section. They are marketed as linen. They are not good. They don't really fit me. The pockets are enormous. You can get a whole water bottle in one of these. They don't have any metal fixtures or fittings. They don't have any labels. They have very few kind of construction details, and they are elasticated at the back, so they don't actually need the tie belt to stay up. You can take that off, replace it with a real belt, or just not have it because this is quite bulky if you've got like a tunic over the top. But if you don't have a tunic over the top, also this gives it a bit of interest. I have this pair, which is pink. I have a cream pair. I have two black pairs, and somewhere I have a khaki green pair. I think I took a cheese grater to those for reasons. Now, admittedly, it's Primark, but also I did buy these some years ago. Secondhand may be your best option on these. There's going to be a lot of this because I'm changing clothes and I've got a mic. This shirt I got from a charity shop. There are a couple of elements to this shirt that I thought were particularly good and particularly drew me to it as LARP kit. Thing number one, it has a very simple shape. It's got some sort of rectangular construction to it, and it has this very neutral neckline. The little tie looks kind of fantasy-esque. The sleeve length is not great. These have buttons on them. Can I do them up around my elbow? No, but I really like this lace shoulder detail. It's a little bit more interesting than just a plain white top, but also it is white, which means that I can layer it under other stuff and that will look correct, even though it's a very modern sort of crinkle polyester. Not the best on the hot day, but on a cold day, actually quite nice. Here I am bringing you unique insights. This is a plain long sleeved t-shirt. Unlike with historical clothing, where you start by making your undergarments and then you work outwards, LARP clothing start outwards, work inwards. Outwards are what people is going to see. You can fake the inner layers unless you need structure. Medieval style fantasy, you normally don't. Don't worry about it. If you need a base layer to go under your kirtle, long sleeve t-shirt from Primark, it's £3. Not the most evocative garment. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be some correct color to fill in the gaps. So if there's a flash, hang on, I've probably got another. Kind of needs a belt, but you get the general idea. This top, I've got two of these, this pale colored one and a brown one. Same embroidered and beaded detail at the neckline. They were £1 each in the sale section in the charity shop. They're a bit big for me, but what I actually did was take out a bust dart and re-sew the side seams. Possibly not the best color combination, but you can see what I mean. The sleeves are not the point. The sleeves are just covering my arms. I could put braces on top of these. I could put gloves on. I could put a jacket over the top. This layer is just here here to fill in the gaps, keep me warm or dry. And then you've got the interest going on here. This top, obviously what drew me to it, very simple neckline, very simple construction, has kind of a fantasy feel to it, nice bit of detailing. It's always nice if each bit of your clothing can have a little bit of detail. That creates a very nice effect overall when you've suddenly got a lot of details. Also, this top is linen. Linen is basically an automatic. If I see something in linen, I buy it. Usually, some exceptions, not always the case, but principle's sound. This shirt, just like the previous shirt, but dialed up to 11, also helped by the fact that this one actually, fits me. The sleeves are a nice length, they're below the elbow. A bit longer would be nicer. I'll take what I can get. It's a super lightweight cotton blend. Nice historical-ish neckline, no fastenings, no major details, and this beautiful embroidery all over the edges. I should iron this. This again was from a charity shop, and it was something that I saw and immediately was like, that looks like LARP kit, I am having that. This top is a little bit more off-piste. Normally with the narrow straps and the quite deep V neckline, this is, I think, meant to be like a nice top for wearing with jeans. I wouldn't gravitate towards this as fancy LARP kit, but this is suede. It's not leather, but it looks like it might be. This is another thing that I picked up as sort of a layering piece because, okay, I can stick this on top of a shirt and wear a belt and a bandolier or a sash and some pauldrons. All of a sudden it looks like maybe I've got armor under here, or at least, like a leather jerkin or something. You're gonna need a lot of accessories to break up this outline, but it means that what's showing through from under the bandolier and the sash and the pauldrons isn't plain cotton. Maybe it's leather. So sometimes it is worth picking stuff up with a view to being a little bit more creative because the fabric is right, but the details aren't necessarily. So this top, obviously, completely the other way. The fabric's fine, it's just a plain cotton, but the details, mostly no. Like there's pin tucks, which is really Victorian, there's buttons, there's these little puffed sleeves, and these ties for the back. These are all just a little bit too modern. However, the shape of this neckline and the little detailings, not that bad. So if we try it with, okay, this dress isn't gonna do up because I'm wearing too many layers, but you can kind of see the principle of how I can put a dress or a tunic over this top and you'll just get a little bit of the neckline, got an extra warmth layer, it's cotton so I can chuck it in the washing machine. This is just sort of adding some interest to what otherwise might be quite a simple like single layer outfit. This dress, hang on, okay, this dress hates me and it's not doing up today, never mind. This dress is a great example of the kind of thing I look for in like base layer dresses. I'm a little bit on the tall side, at least for women's clothes. Waistlines tend to hit quite high on me. For reference, my actual waistline is about here. This dress's waistline is like here, which seems like a problem, but not if you want kind of Italian Renaissance flavored stuff. Higher waistline, actually a really good idea. This is a maxi dress, so it is ankle length, slightly on the tall side. It's top of ankle, which is perfect for being in the field. It's a synthetic material, so it's super washable. The dress as a whole is fairly neutral, but the bodice has this kind of lace overlay, which again shows off really beautifully if you're layering stuff over the top of this. With something like this, I'd be looking to add sleeves and maybe an overdress. In fact, so this long waistcoat is again just something that I found in a charity shop. It's super simple, it just closes with a single button. The button is plastic but kind of interesting. It's velvet, it's synthetic velvet, but it's still velvet, which means that just by existing it adds interest and looks kind of historical. The color is good. Rich jewel tones are always a good idea in fantasy, along with a neutral or green and brown palette. Generally anything along those lines is going to sell itself as kind of medieval-ish. All I really need to do is add sleeves to this and some accessories, and I've already got a kind of maybe historically plausible fantasy outfit. Sleeves are the big thing though, which, hold on, what else have we got? I apologize if this is covered in hair, I had to kick my cat off it. This is just like a synthetic velvet cardigan. It's a little bit big on me, but it's also about knee length. It has a really simple tie front, so again, no complex closures, no fussy details, nothing metal. And it's velvet, which is a fabric that carries a lot of interest in its own right, so it's going to look interesting in the gaps between things. It's also a really nice extra warmth layer. There's nothing overtly modern about this cardigan, with a couple of little extra details like a brooch over the ties, which I recommend because these suck and come undone. Or you could belt it. There's a whole bunch of things that you could do, layering extra clothes on top of it or whatever, and it's going to look really cool underneath. But yeah, this was like £4 from a charity shop. Okay, so I've cheated a little bit and I went and grabbed one of my Lolita blouses because I wanted big floofy sleeves to show this off, which if you're after big floofy Victoriana sleeves, consider Lolita. This bodice top is one of the things that consistently people will be like, that's purpose-made LARP kit, right? Like, did you make that or is it from Mythalon? No, this is a bridesmaid's bodice from a charity shop. It cost me £2.50. This one does up the back. I also have a plain black one that does up the front. Am I going to show you this? I am going to show you this. Right, I haven't fully done it up because that would take too long, but this one is like a broderie anglaise. It's got a little drawstring neckline. It is the most cottagecore hobbit thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. If you have a plain medieval style dress, or maybe something a little bit later that's a little bit fuller and it's gathered, or you've got a top and a skirt and you're not really sure how to marry them, anything that's kind of a bodicey, again, is usually evening wear. This one I think is a bit unusual, but must have been in fashion at some point. Although I think if you're going to try something like this, you are going to be fighting the cottagecore lot for it. Anything like this is just a really great way of adding an extra layer of interest to your outfit for a little bit more warmth and not a lot more kind of bulk or complexity. It's not overwhelming and they are pretty available. I found a lot of them over the years. The other one was boned, this one isn't. A whole bunch of options exist. This video is going to take so long to make because I have to keep putting my headscarf back on. The sensible thing to do would have been to not totally ruin my hair. It's fine. Hair grows eventually. Skirts. There are two main kinds of skirts that you are looking out for fantasy costume. Skirt number one, plain. This is a vintage skirt that I think I inherited. It is crumpling, but any kind of full or A-line maxi skirt, this one is A-line, which means that it flares towards the hem. You want this as plain as possible, so no fancy details, not too much decoration, no metal detailing. Ideally, you don't want to be able to see how it closes. This one has a fairly discreet zip that's easy to hide. Your other option is sort of a roughly tiered thing. Again, these are pretty easy to pick up in a bunch of colors, depending on the length is how full they'll be. These do tend to have decoration on them, which is actually quite nice. It's a slightly different feel, so instead of going for austere medieval, this is a bit more rough and tumble hobbit. Same principles apply with colors. Anything neutral, anything dual toned, anything in a kind of green and brown palette, and you're away. Avoid patterns. You can get patterns and printed ones and also stuff with lace on them. You don't really want that. What you might want, on the other hand, if you find one that is white, either a plain skirt or something like this that has ruffles on it, or one of the tiered ones. To be honest, you can do this with any color, just the white ones tend to make more sense. Petticoats. If you are going to an event where you expect to be cold and you are comfortable wearing skirts, you will be warmer wearing as many skirts as you can fit than you will be in trousers. You can add so many more layers when you're wearing skirts, especially if they have elasticated waistbands. Just keep adding skirts. If you're going to start layering up skirts, honestly, you can do it in any color. The white ones tend to read better because people expect to see white underwear, underclothes, even though that is really more a Victorian thing, having these big roughly white petticoats, but it works for like fake medieval too. Completely fine. You can do that. Equally, if you've got a main color and an accent color and you've got a skirt in each accent color skirt under the main color skirt, it'll show when you move, not so much when you don't. We did a little bit of outerwear with the kind of cardigan. I love these. You find them all over the place. It's just a blanket with a slit cut in it, but it's a wrap. And you can wear these all kinds of ways. You can just drape them over, you can put it across. I really like belting the front and not the back, so the back swings free. That looks very cool. Also, if you can belt the front and then you sort of take one arm out and all of a sudden you're some kind of senator and you're actually just wearing a blanket. This one is quite a nice one that I got from some people who make stuff out of reclaimed loom ends. But equally, I have a cheap synthetic one that I got from Primark. 10 years ago. And then the other thing that this is an unusual example because it's in chiffon. Duster coats have got really popular in the last 4 or 5 years. The kind of key features of a duster coat is that it doesn't have any structure and it doesn't really have any fastenings. It's just meant to be a cardigan sort of thing, which I'm sure is super fashionable if you're like trendy, but to me, it's a wizard's robe. Now this one, which again I got from a charity shop, is super simple, like the edges are just barely overlocked. I would not use it as the main part of a costume, but would I layer it under or over, especially because it's chiffon and it's see-through, you can stick it on top of stuff. See-through fabrics are not super historical, but they look great, and if you've got a quite historical costume that you're wanting to take more fantasy, consider chiffon. It has a very kind of ethereal and magical feel to it, which I think works really, really nicely. Now at this point, you're probably going, well, Ash, this is great for you. You already own all of these clothes, but I live in hoodies and shorts. I don't own appropriate clothes for doing LARPing. And that's completely fine, because in our next video, I'm going to be showing you how you go about shopping for clothes like this. Might end up being a two-parter, depending on whether or not I can bring myself to go out of the house or not. I want to share with you the key features I'm looking for, the kind of materials I'm looking for, the kind of cuts, and the keywords that you can use to find those things. There are a lot of clothes out there, especially secondhand clothes, that you can use for LARP kit, and that's going to be ultimately more sustainable than buying a whole load of brand new stuff, or even potentially buying a whole load of fabric to sew new stuff with. Not that I don't do that as well a lot. We will get on to sewing the later part of the series after we've done what already exists. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to keep the YouTube gods happy. I would be unbelievably grateful if you went and shared this or one of my other videos with a friend. You can follow me on Instagram. Occasionally I talk about sewing and LARP. Mostly I just give you cat pictures and memes. And in the description box you can also find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can make a one-off or reoccurring donation to support this channel. The people who support this channel get 24 hours of early access to my videos, plus possibly more things in future. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. If you have a suggestion, leave it over there. Either way, those donations really do help me out because algorithm weather is fickle, and like any normal human being, because that's what I am, I want to see the channel grow, and it's kind of doing that, but not really. Very slow. The field kit wardrobe is quite an undertaking in terms of just putting all this information together, engaging with the video in any way, sharing it with people that you think might also appreciate it. Super helps me out. People supporting me on Ko-fi is the biggest incentive to keep making these dumb videos. No pressure. We've reached the end of our time together. I hope you come back next time, if nothing else, to see whether or not my hair has reached the point at which I'm no longer ashamed to show it to people. So until next time, dream big, and I'll see you very soon. You can get patterns and printed ones, and also stuff with lace on them. You don't really